Suggestion ka naman kahapon, magkaroon ng masusing investigasyon gamit po yung SOLAS at yung CIC. Merong protocol po kasi yung yung Code of Maritime Incidents. Merong ganun eh. So, doon muna tayo. Tapusin yung investigasyon. But just the same, I'd like to commend the Philippine Coast Guard for being steadfast. Talagang sinasadya na yun. Hindi naman pwedeng dalawang insidente sa minor collision sa isang araw.
Can we hold them accountable under our domestic laws?
Yung damage doon sa barko, sa May 2, May 2. So yung sira doon sa barko, yung pwedeng maging liable sila doon, plus the civil damages that can probably be secured by the crew. Yung stress, yung psychological difficulties during that moment na binangga sila. So, yun siguro. They can file a case.
Pero as far as you know, sir, as a lawyer, wala po ba silang sovereign immunity?
Militia yun eh. Kine-claim nilang militia yun eh. Kine-claim nilang commercial fishing vessels yun eh. Diba?
So, hindi sila sakop ng
Hindi.
sovereign immunity?
Kine-claim nila na privado yun eh.
Yung CC, but yung CC, yung vessel.
Ayun, medyo iba yun. Oo. Dalawang incidents kasi yan eh. So, hintayin lang natin siguro kung ano yung gagawin ng Pangulo. Suportahan natin yon. At natatandaan niyo ba yung sinabi ko dati? Nakalimutan niyo na. Yung don't spoil our Christmas. So, thank you.
Anong meron, sir?
Ah.
Tuloy yun na, sir.
Hindi na, si Gina Jane na. So, bago na yung
Sinabi ko kanina na pwede namang arestuhin yung mga naroon, but hindi yun yung priority. Parang yun yung pagkakasabi nyo kanina, so pwede ipakita.
Well, as far as the mandate of the Philippine Coast Guard is concerned, of course, we can carry out maritime law enforcement. In particular, yung pag-counter nga ng IUUF, that was the question this morning. However, I mentioned, I highlighted the fact that during the resupply operation, our mission objective is to support the armed forces of the Philippines in completing its resupply operation. Secondly, I also mentioned the proportionality of the vessels. There were 16 Chinese maritime militia vessels, and there were 5 China Coast Guard vessels. And of course, we also mentioned the presence of 2 PLA Navy vessels. Kung gugustuhin nga ng Coast Guard na mag-carry out ng boarding sa mga Chinese maritime militia, of course, by mandate, we can do that. But again, in terms of proportionality and our priority during that time, that is to complete the resupply operation, kaya we never did such a maritime law enforcement function.
Sir, ano ko lang, na kapag ginawa yung boarding, possible na mas ano yung tension o ano?
Well, we can expect that, no? With the videos that we released, the Chinese maritime militia vessels are even bigger than the 44-meter Philippine Coast Guard vessel that we deployed.
Do you expect, since this happened yesterday, do you expect na mas maging aggressive and hostile ang CG after this, the Chinese Coast Guard after this?
If we're going to look at how the Chinese Coast Guard and the Chinese Maritime Militia respond every time na merong masyadong grabing aggressive action na ginawa ang Chinese Coast Guard or Chinese Maritime Militia. Ang ginagawa nila, and then we publicized it, the following resupply, hindi naman sila ganun ka-agresibo. Well, of course, it's the international community criticizing and condemning their aggressive behavior. That's why we can also expect that they are going to tone down yung magiging approach nila sa mga susunod na panahon. However, on the part of the Philippine Coast Guard and the Armed Forces of the Philippines, we are always expecting that the level of aggressiveness will still be the same.
And this will not be the end of what they're doing with the West Philippines.
If you if you can speak for them that it won't be an end for them, definitely that will not also be an end for the Philippine Coast Guard and the Armed Forces of the Philippines to prevent us in continuing our resupply operation.
Sir, are there going to be changes sa RORE mission strategy natin without divulging details because of what happened?
Well, I think the Armed Forces of the Philippines and the Philippine Coast Guard, together with our President already and our Secretary of National Defense, they had a meeting this morning, and those operational details were already discussed. I do not have any authority to disclose it to the public, but definitely there are contingencies that are being planned out right now.
Sir, sasama po kayo ng media?
Yes, embedding our media friends has always been the priority of our national government. President Bongbong Marcos believes that our transparency initiative is very helpful in telling not just the Filipino people to be aware of what is happening in the West Philippine Sea, but also for us to garner support from the international community.
Sir, in yesterday's incident, meron po bang kasama local media?
Yes, there were embedded media from ABS-CBN, si Bianca, from GMA, Ms. Sandra Aguinaldo, and from PTB4, si Gio. And the local media from Palawan.
Sir, yung nangyari kahapon,
TV5.
Sir, yung nangyari kahapon, ang basa niyo po ba ay intentional, sinasabi intentional, o resulta lang po ng dangerous maneuvers yung, ano po? Is it intentional kapag yung maneuvers mo, ganun, parang nangigitit?
As what we have presented this morning, no, together with the Armed Forces of the Philippines, the Department of Foreign Affairs, and the National Security Council, we mentioned that there is a collision incident. As to whether it is intentional or not, we go back to the behavior of China, highlighting the fact that they have been doing this dangerous maneuver. And for the past, we have been warning Chinese government that if they keep on doing the dangerous maneuver and then keeping close such distance, there is always a possibility of collision.
Sir, na-determine na ba, sir, kung ano yung damage doon sa...
I would always tell this to the public that the only reason why there are a lot of news that is being publicized in the past months since we started the transparency initiative last February, it's because the national government is allowing the public to be aware of what's happening.
So, meaning
But-
may dati pang mas malala doon?
I cannot speak for the previous incidents, but what I'm saying is that there were reported incidents as numerous as now because we are telling the public what is happening.
Before ba hindi?
I was not the spokesperson then, ma'am.
Pero you're part of the PCG even before. So,
Yes, ma'am, but I was doing my PhD for 4 years before going back here in the Philippines. So definitely, ma'am, I'm not around.
You're saying na hindi, walang escalation even if meron ng collision, actual collision.
What I'm saying is that there are incidents that are happening, but I don't want to say that there is an escalation.
So how can we frame or how can we call this? No escalation, so de facto as it is?
There is no escalation, but as what I mentioned, there is a collision because of the aggressive behavior and dangerous maneuver of Chinese Coast Guard and the Chinese Maritime Militia.
So previously we were blinded, we were not told about what is happening before, and now we are now seeing or we are now hearing what is now going on.
As I said, sir, I cannot speak for the previous government. What is the take and strategy in the information dissemination?
Well, you cannot speak for the previous administration, but you can speak as a Filipino. You are still part of the Philippines.
As a Filipino and as a proud member of the Philippine Coast Guard, I believe the Transparency Initiative, headed by our president in exposing aggressive behavior of China, is the best way for us to counter the gray zone in the West Philippine Sea.
Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Maraming pong salamat, sir.
Sir,